All right, so this is recording 760-760. So again, you can find me at christinastation918.com. That's STIA918.com. You can find me also on Podbean by looking at my podcast, Speaking to the CIA. You can also find me on Twitter, ChristinaMS918. And you can also find me on YouTube, Christina Stacia 918. I realize my website still says my YouTube, but you'll find me, Christina Stacia. I updated it to Christina Stacia 918. So anyway, this is part 2 of the last recording. So I'm going to continue on. So I'm going to get into more of these crimes that Jean Roberts committed with her Manson occult in history. Okay, so back to 1986 again. Okay, so I'm going to go over some decode with you. So 3/27/1986. Okay, so you're going to have to see all decode on 972, the combination of 972. So you see the 972 and the date. And then you also see the 3186 in it. Okay, and remember, I need to look that up real quick. I forget what state that is. Remember how you told people listening in how she committed crimes using 31, trying to reverse the 13 and the 31. And then she tried to hustle people and try to say that this is you and you did this and her freaking lie-ass, con-ass shit, trying to con people. And I'm like, no, that's Jean Jernigan Robertson and Manson occult. And then she just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And then it got to be so overwhelming. And this is like happening in my brain and mental telepathy. But what she does is she pushes where she's got the stolen AI underground so I can hear her mental telepathy. And then she pushes it up into the universe, into the environment by spreading gossip and lies on the street. And she does it by using, pushing into Hollywood, using her clip and stitch vignettes, but all she does is lie with it. It's ridiculous. But anyway, she's pushed it out so hardcore that people are like, don't fall for that. That's Jean Roberts. That's Jean Roberts. That's Jean Roberts. And then she pushed it out so freaking hard, just like, here, like, you will take this and you'll take it. You know what I mean? And then people are like, now what do we do? Because everybody thinks that we're using 31 as another way to stand for, and what she's referring to is Jean Roberts is referring to African Americans. So they all think 31 means us. It does not mean us. It means Jean Roberts committed a crime using the number 31. And she's trying to like get you guys to like go along with it. But now it's like so much out there that everybody just uses the 31, and they're like, and then that's why I'm like on my recording going, use precaution. Like, no, this is like everybody. There's a lot of people that think this is you and they use this to stand for you, but they don't realize that Jean committed crimes using the number 31 and then tried to hustle you. So, like, if you're going to use the 31, because that's how people are like, oh my God, 31. But it's all her white peoplers. It's Jean Roberts people that do the white peopling that lie to brown and black people that are using the 31. But it's spread out to white people on the street. So they're like, oh my God. So I'm saying don't use it. Be precautious about it. Know that you're being referred to, but don't accept any of Jean Roberts trying to push off crimes she committed or any of her white peopling or any of that. So, like, be precautious with that. But anyway, someone said, what is the 31st state? And I can't even remember what the 31st state is. California. Okay, so, which is probably why she thought she could. So, okay, so California is the 31st state. So use it precautiously. Know it's Jean Roberts behind pushing that, but don't accept any crime she committed Don't accept any crime. Gene Roberts and her Manson occult is the occult that committed these crimes. Gene Jernigan Roberts of Milton, Florida. I don't care how she freaking lies and hustles and blah, blah, blah on the street. I do not care. She needs to be held accountable. She committed these crimes. Stop. So anyway, okay, so, all right, so let me go back to this. So the 972, that's an Alice in Wonderland reference to catch everyone up to speed who hasn't been through my podcast, doesn't know. So any combination of 972, whether it be 279, 729, any arrangement is always a reference to Alice in Wonderland. I decoded a ton of crime and a ton of history, all because it's all like her underlying everything all around the numbers 972, and then I further decoded out the 972 as a part, like you go, okay, if you 972, what's missing and what are the numbers left? And then I was able to decode out the rest of the numbers. So all the numbers that aren't there in 0 through 9 that are not 972, that all decodes out. Okay, so it's all, I've got that in my decode books, or I've got it on my phone in my decode. I don't know where it's at. It's either it's either turned in to Tulsa Police Headquarters or it's not. If it's not, I still have it. But anyway, so, and you also want to look at things like police codes, area codes. So if you're decoding crime that Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed, you're going to pay attention to highways. You're going to pay attention to police codes, area codes. She uses everything. Like it's just soup, just everything just thrown in, which is a perfect disguise, because then she'd go tink, 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 and then and then switch this and switch that, and then go hustle and lie and confuse, and nobody knows, and then she gets to go away with it. So anyway, so 3/27, 1986, so you see the 972 in there, and then you see the 3186. And then also that decodes out to DAHT. So then that goes all the way back again. So you see the 1979 in there. So what was popular? What were the popular vehicles in the 70s? Datsuns. Okay. And then you also know DAT. That's popular in Louisiana. People say that in reference to the football team, the New Orleans Saints. Like, who they say it's a phrase that everybody says there. Who dat? Okay, so but dat is also data. Okay, it's a tape. It's like a like a floppy disk or a flash drive. We use flash drives today, but it literally looks like a miniature. It really looks like a miniature cassette tape. You know, the old school cassette tapes? It really looks like a miniature cassette tape. Okay, real teeny tiny, and it's real boxy. So it's a memory storing device. Okay, so it's also, she's also making a reference to that. Okay, so anyway, the DAHT, so there's a couple of different things going on here. So I'm bringing this all together, showing you all of this, because it also connects to additional crimes, tons and hundreds of crimes that Gene Roberts has committed. So, her doing the gas shortage crisis. So, because I'm instantly going to know, like going back and looking on my life, and I'm like, okay, this is this. So 1970. So the gas shortage crisis of the 70s, she committed that crime too. And she did that by controlling the environment and using ice and everything else. And then I decoded the gas shortage, her committing the gas shortage crisis, several times. Like she interweaves it or into crimes that she's committing, such as she did here. So it's literally linked into the Iran hostage crisis. Okay, and so 1986 was the year that the bust occurred for it in Oliver North and Steel Code Oliver North and everything else. Okay, so anyway, also she's using, let me stop here because she's breaking my train of thought. So remember when I decoded her pre-planning to do the Oklahoma City bombing and parts of the decoded ciphers that she wrote that I decoded? She's making references to, she's calling it a land run and a land grab. I decoded a whole bunch of this, and it's inside her Charles Manson demonic ciphers regarding her planning to commit the Oklahoma City bombing. So inside that, she's bragging about crashing the housing market crash. She's planning on stealing real estate. And so she's doing the housing market crash. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So this is kind of the same thing because the gas shortage crisis. Okay. And then and it's supposed to be relevant because then when I get to, which means she did that again. She freaking did that again. Every time I'm just not astounded anymore. I can't learn anymore. I'm astounded again that somebody's talking through me right now. They're just going, oh my God. So anyway, when I lived in Buffalo, New York, which was between the years of 2007 and 2009 or 2010, there was a stock market crash. That was also the time of the BP oil spill. She committed the BP oil spill. She committed that crime. I decoded that. And there was also a major crash in the stock market, and there was a big housing bubble crisis. And then the car, see, even that, the car bubble, she's doing that there too. She crashed the car industry. Remember they had to do the auto bailout? And that probably links to BP. Oh my God. She's pulling on my mouth right now because people are going, oh my God. So she instantly starts attacking my mouth. Like she's pulling my mouth up and down because she's lying to someone somewhere who can't hear what you're saying until you make a podcast. Until I make a people already have my podcast, already know that Gina's lying. She's lying to someone somewhere who can't see or hear anything. They can just see face expressions and her lies and interpretations of what I'm saying because she's trying to con and hustle people. People are going, oh my God, right now. So anyway, so she committed all those crimes. So like I told you before in previous podcasts, those bubble bursts, like the .com burst, all those bursts, she committed those crimes. Those are terror attacks that Jean Roberts committed with her Manson occult by manipulating our currency system and manipulating business. And she does this all with ICE. She has been using ICE to wield and steal for 60 years, her and her Manson occult. And then she hides under the Illuminati. And then she hides under the military. She hides under anyone and everyone. Okay, so anyway, so there's more of that connection there. So, okay, so anyway, so you have also, she uses here Seal Code Ides of March. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of decode that goes to Ides of March. There's a whole, and then March 4th and all that. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of decode that I did, decoding all of that. So what she's doing is she's making a reference to the Ides of March. That probably is also the Ides of March. So remember how she said, somebody talking through my voice, they're like reminding me, but then somebody steals what they're saying and redirects the sound effect of it like they're talking to someone else. It's ridiculous what goes on in my brain. I'm just trying to make a podcast here. So I'm trying to make reports against these guys. These guys are scandalous as hell with the ICE. So anyway, ICE again, ICE is using robotic technology on people. Okay, so Anyway, when she went to do the Oklahoma City bombing, this is more decoded ciphers that I decoded of her committing the Oklahoma City bombing and pre-planning to and I could write a small book on that if I put it all together. I will like between everything I have is like 80 books of like decoded ciphers of crimes she committed. It's insane. But like the Oklahoma City bombing alone could be like a small book. It's ridiculous. So anyway, in part of this ciphers that I decoded proving that she did the Oklahoma City bombing, she referred to what the heck is that freaking dude's name again? Timothy McVeigh. She referred to Tim McVeigh as her side dish. So there's side there. And then I wonder if that guy is Irish. But anyway, McVeigh. so it's not even freaking funny. I want Gene to be arrested for committing these crimes, but this is getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to tell you that Gene Robertson and Manson Cole committing these crimes. So anyway, so that goes to that. Okay, so more on 1986. So I'm going to keep going through this here. There's a whole bunch more. Okay, so in 1986, Melbourne's Russell Street Police. Okay, so I want to stop right here. Okay, so street police. So remember when I lived in Slidell and I decoded Abraham Lincoln and her pre-planning to assassinate her predecessors, pre-planning to assassinate. Even that, she did that too. Oh my freaking God. Okay, just wait. Let me get to it. So anyway, somebody just told me something in my brain. They made another link. They're like, oh my God. So when I was in Slidell and I decoded her pre-planning to take Abraham Lincoln's life, okay, and I decoded the true crime of what happened to Abraham Lincoln, and I was like, this was 10 years ago. I'm still the same way I always am. Like, you just heard me, like, bawling my eyes out in another recording. I'm still, like, it kills me, the crimes that she's committed. That's why I'm, like, I just stay at the level of, like, main freaking Tane and turn Gene in. But anyway, it killed me, like, what she did to him. So, anyway, Ulysses Grant, okay? Ulysses Grant is the actual person. I remember I told you this in a previous podcast. This is decoded out, but I really believe everybody really believes it was Ulysses Grant now. She could have like pinpointed him to blame him where his name comes out, because she'll frame you like an innocent, where it really could have actually been Ulysses Grant. But she's got her criminals. I can hear the little fucking, sorry, she's putting curse words in my sentences. I can hear her making a little mic drop sound effect over there. The voice is like, and then she's going, thank you. Well, that's her criminals. They're freaking lying in the back, and they're also shoving their criminal ass shit in my brain. So anyway, so I don't forget what I was going to freaking say. So Ulysses Grant, so then land grant and all that. So again, that goes this. So, okay, so in decoding Abraham Lincoln, I decoded something called street hats. Okay, so and then even that in 1986, and then a couple years before that, who was popular was Men Without Hats. What she's trying to get you to do is to confuse Men Without Hats. That's an 80s pop group that sang the safety dance. You have to see all code on the safety dance, and not even get me going on her on that either. So anyway, she's trying to confuse your brain, the two pop groups, with ABC, who was popular when you lived in 1986, and they sang a song called How to Be a Millionaire. Okay, and they also sang, what else did they freaking sing? They sang something else that was really popular. Their song goes, "Tell me how to be a millionaire." Okay, so she's trying to confuse the two pop groups in your brain. So anyway, so that all goes together. So anyway, you can see more of her manipulation and her icing of music over time. So anyway, so Street Hats is the early version, the very, very, very early version of the Ku Klux Klan. They called them street hats. Stop putting your fucking nasty fucking shit on me. That's your ass, Gene. Gene Roberts is in the Ku Klux Klan. I love busting that bitch, too. They changed my inflection to go, that bitch, like it's somebody else. Gene Roberts is in the Ku Klux Klan. I bust her constantly for it. So, anyway, so it's a reference to, it's an early name for the Ku Klux Klan. So anyway, so Melbourne's Russell Street Police. So the street police, and that's like literally what they referred to themselves as, not Melbourne Russell Street Police. They know in history Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so they literally committed this crime. Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed this crime, and it's linked all the way back in time. So, okay, so Melbourne's Russell Street Police in 1986, a car bomb ripped through Melbourne's Russell Street Police headquarters, killing 1 and injuring 21. So again, you know, Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed this crime. So here's more that goes to this, proving that Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed this car bombing. Okay, so Price Waterhouse Cooper is in it. And then boom, you're going to have to see all my podcasts and see all the link, all the decoded ciphers, because there's so much. I'm not going to redo it all over and over and over. I'm just going to tell you the links. Okay, so Price Waterhouse Cooper. So again, that's linking to the future, her planning to do the World Trade Center attack, now past. And then she's also wrapped it into icing the movies. Okay, so in the movies, so it's a reference to D.B. Cooper. Now, see, y'all code on D.B. Cooper. I decode the heck out of D.B. Cooper. That goes all the way back to my life. I can't watch anything on D.B. Cooper without like decode. So anyway, so D.B. Cooper. So then, that connects to the Bourne Identity. Remember that movie, The Bourne Identity? And who played in that movie? I believe it was Matt Damon. Okay, so he was also in The Talented Mr. Ripley. Okay, so Jean uses Rip as in rest in peace. Okay, she uses Ripley's to say rest in peace. She's saying death when she uses Ripley. Okay, so Ripley is famous in the United States of America. Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is basically like me right now, like, but I'm not doing this for entertainment. I'm turning this occult leader in. So I told you, in 1986, when I lived in Chicago, one time my dad and I, went to, my dad and Beth, my stepmom, we went downtown Chicago for the day, and we went to Gino's ESP. We just did the whole thing, like did the Chicago thing for the day. And then we went to, they were talking outside. Like I told you, it's the ice event. She's icing the crap out of me and my family. She's controlling everything about us. So my dad and Beth went outside. We were walking down the street. It was a city sidewalk. We were walking down the street, and then Beth and my stepmom Beth and my dad started to have a little bit of a tiff, Tiffany. See, Christine, stop talking through me. So they're trying to point out to me a tiff, a fight. Okay, so see my previous podcast here on Tiffany. Okay. So, and then that goes to Price Waterhouse Cooper again. So they were having a tip. So she's icing them to fight, right? So they're having a little bit of a, and so they go out, they're out there on the sidewalk having a tiff. And then, I'm like, I go wandering around and there's little teeny tiny, businesses there. And so, oh no, that was when stop talking, stop acting like you're me, whoever's trying to control. Okay, so we went into Ripley's, believe it or not, and then they had the tiff, and then they went outside, and then after that, I went wandering around next door, and that's when I went into the record store, is a cassette record store, a little teeny tiny record store. Even like it's comparable. They're probably like a little teeny tiny record store, and I went in there looking for hip hop. I went there looking for rap, and nothing was in there but punk music, and I got like peeved. And I was like looking through all the albums. I was looking through cassette tapes is what I was looking at, was the cassette tapes. And I'm looking for hip hop. I'm looking for rap. Okay. And I'm looking. I don't see anything but punk music, and I'm getting aggravated and mad. And so I finally see Beastie Boys, and Beastie Boys was out with License to Ill at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, have I found goodness? Do they have another rap album out? And I'm like, oh my God, blah, blah, and I'm getting all freaking excited. And so I pick up the Beastie Boys cassette tape, and it's punk music. And then I'm like, pissed. Like, I'm a teenager, and I'm like pissed. I'm like, what the heck? I don't want what the heck it, like, I get mad. I'm like, I don't want Beastie Boys punk music. I want the hip hop. So like they're outside having a tiff, and I'm in there having a fit about the rap music. So, but it's not rap music, it's punk music. You see how she ices all of us? So anyway, but it's a funny memory looking back on that, like, me giving a little freaking cursing to the Beastie Boys. But anyway, so I like keep the good, and then I turn Jean in for her icing, stalking me and my family, and for her committing terrorism. So anyway, the Ripley's, believe it or not, was the craziest freaking thing in the world in Chicago. I bet you it's still there unless they've changed the modeling of it. But there was a Ripley's, believe it. In the lobby of the Ripley's, believe it or not, was a gigantic water spout, a huge water spout, like a spigot on the side of the on the side of the wall outside where you hook the water hose up to, a gigantic spigot. And then, I mean, it was huge. Like, it was probably tall. I'm 5'8". It was probably as tall as me. It was huge. And it was suspended from the ceiling, and it was suspended by one line that looked like a thread, but it was like a thicker black, oh my God, she is controlling my speech, by a thicker clear line, like a fishing line, as looks like what it's suspended. And you're sitting there staring at it like, how is this big thing hanging from this fishing line? So I'm just like looking down, I'm like, what the heck? And so anyway, in the past 10 years, when I first started decoding, I realized in decoding Death to Pigs, okay, she's making a spigot. Okay, remember I told you 2 pigs? You rearrange the letters at spigot. It's water faucet, water spout, and then spawn. She's making a Charles Manson reference by using Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum and their exhibit as a theme. So I look back and I go, oh my God, I'm being stuck with Charles Manson, which has happened to me for like the past, like 7 years. Like, well, I knew it was Charles Manson, but I didn't know it was Charles Manson. Like, I got like all the the pieces, but I was like, didn't know till I got to Texas that it was really Charles Manson. The more I decoded, I went through it. I decoded everything. I freaking went through everybody everywhere. Like, who is doing that? And then it's actually Charles Manson occult. So anyway, so she's using that. So I'm supposed to be like eerie and spooked out, like looking back on my life. And so the water spout, then that goes through the Price Waterhouse Cooper, and then she's saying rest in peace, she's saying death. Okay, so the talented Mr. Ripley's goes to that, and then also she uses surfing as the theme. She uses a lot of themes, okay, and using Charles Manson as her signature. When she commits a crime, she leaves her autograph, okay, and you can find her autograph and everything. Usually she leaves some fake, and sometimes I actually decode out what it is, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I figure it out, and sometimes I don't. But she leaves some, whatever her excuse or her reasoning is, which she's a freaking deranged, her and her cult are deranged sociopaths. They just make up lies and decide to run around and kill people is what they do. And they give themselves an excuse or a reason to kill. Okay. So some of the crimes that I can decode out the fake lie ass sociopath freaking reason she decided to kill or commit the crime. And then sometimes I'm not successful and able to figure out what her little freaking excuse is as to why she committed the crime. And then another thing is she uses different themes. So one of the themes that she always uses is anything that's beach related and anything, and that would include surfing, anything beach theme. And then she also uses skating, and I'm talking about like skateboarding, because it's probably because skateboarding goes back to my childhood. I remember she stalked me all my life. So in California, there's beaches, there's ocean, right? So skateboarding and surfing were synonymous when I was growing up. Okay, they were they wore the same brands of clothes, locomotion, everything was interchanged except surfers were on a surfboard and skaters were on a skateboard. So in Arizona, when I was growing up, another thing that they called skateboarders, where they called them sidewalk surfers. Okay, so it was like a little mix-up nickname because surfing and skating, and then also the SS, see all code SS. See my previous, stop trying to pretend like you're me, talk through my voice. See all my previous podcasts on SS, Zodiac Killer, Charles Manson, da da da. Okay, so anyway, so she's using skateboarding as the theme, okay? She's trying to disrupt Christina by visually telling lies to someone. Always paying attention to what Jean's doing to you. But they can see you like waving your hand like, get out of here. So anyway, so she uses skateboarding and surfing interchangeably, and it has to do with beach. She uses a beach theme, okay? So anyway, which is water, which is running water, which is the spigot or the water faucet or spigot. She's using spigot and Death to Pigs, but I don't know if it's spigot or spigot. I think both are used. So anyway, so Riptide, she is also, when I got a little bit older, I went to California. I was still a teenager. I went to California on a little vacation, and I went to Camp Pendleton. Even that, Camp Pendleton and PEN. And then she's using pen and pendulum and all that. So everything pins, y'all decode on pen. So I went to Camp Pendleton and I got caught in a riptide. So she iced me to get caught in a riptide, and I had to be rescued from a lifeguard. Like, I was like so far away from shore, I would have died. Like, I didn't know how to swim back in, because getting caught in a riptide, you're getting caught in a loop in the water. And the only way out of the loop is to swim diagonal above and below the water back into shore. That's the only way out of a riptide. Otherwise, you cycle and die. So she also used Vincent Price. Somebody also pointed out Vincent Price. So that goes also to Price Waterhouse Cooper. So she used Vincent, and then venison, and then Vin, and then see all code on all the V and Vin, and then scent. She used that, and then also note Vincent Price Initials is also VP. See all code VP. So there's so much more here. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this recording, and then I'm gonna do a part 3. Okay, and we're gonna continue on with this. Okay, so let me stop this recording.